It's not enough to be out there to be in the public to have 20 million followers. It's great, but then again, you have to consider the fact that all your 20 million followers are not Lagos residents. Some of your 20 million followers are actually APC member. The ones that are not APC member, they have sympathy for APC. So what about the ones that are not in Nigeria?
Last weekend, the internet was in a frenzy over the Osun State electoral results. Rarely does an incumbent governor lose an election, but somehow Senator Adeleke made it happen, and we are here to find out how. My name is Rachel Isaac, and this is Paul's Hot Takes, the show where we give you our takes regarding topical issues, and we give it to you as e hot. You guys know that I am never alone on Paul's Hot Takes, and today I have a different set of guests. I have to my right Bayo, the one who is always smiling. You shall want to say your full name when you say it.
Yeah, Bayo Wahab, so you fed it.
And we have Nuruddin. Nuruddin is a native today.
Oh yeah.
Man in black.
Man in black.
How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm feeling great.
All right, so today we're talking about the underdog that came and just changed everything in Osun State. So let's talk about the highlights of Governor Oyetola for you. How do you think that impacted the elections?
Well, that's pretty much a difficult thing to decipher, because if you ask people that are in Osun, they will tell you that Oyetola actually performed to some extent. So you can't really place the outcome of the election side by side with his performance, because some of the policies that he inherited from his predecessor, that's Rauf Aregbesola, that seem not to be popular among the people of Osun State. He reversed it. For instance, the issue of single uniform across Osun State, he reversed it. He also, he started paying salaries, unlike Aregbesola in the twilight of his government. He couldn't pay full salary. Oyetola came on board and was paying salaries, and he was also clearing the debt that he inherited. I think he inherited about 270 billion, and he has been able to pay off, I think, 5 billion. I don't have the actual figures, but the main point is he inherited accumulated debt, but he has been repaying them without borrowing a dime. So if you want to judge based on his performance, you would say, oh, he should be re-elected, because it basically did what the people wanted. But again, in elections, you don't really know how these things plays out sometimes. So it's very, very difficult to call.
Well, Osun State is they call it, unlike Lagos where you have job opportunities, Osun State is a civil servant state. Yeah, that's what they call it, because the bulk of people that are employed in that state are civil servants, and you need to be paying them regularly, not that you be paying them today. So I think he has been doing that regularly, but then should we be praising people for paying salaries?
I mean, it should be normal, right?
Because he's a governor. They are working for the state, so should we be praising people for paying salaries? I think even Adeleke has actually mentioned that you shouldn't be paying governors for paying salaries. But in a state where people are actually owed salaries in the previous administration, and somebody is actually coming to pay that, that's a big deal.
New, yes. All right, so who exactly is Senator Adeleke, and was he considered a worthy opponent until now?
Until this
election.
Of course,
yeah,
I mean,
see his name
you can't underrate. You can't underrate
I'm not
him.
underrating him. I'm just asking that before the elections, did you think that he could be governor of Osun State?
This election could have easily been his re-election, if you ask me, because in 2018 he came very close. As a matter of fact, he was leading with over 300 votes before the election went into an inconclusive mode. So, and that allowed the APC to actually usurp his lead, and eventually Oyetola won. So if you had someone like that could pull such weight in the 2018 election, you would always know that he can replicate it, which is what he did in this last election. And of course, if you look at the figures, you will realize that in 2018 they both had over 250,000 votes. But in this last election, Adeleke actually scored over 400,000 votes, which means he has actually been able to reestablish himself. Leading up to the 2018 election, he had some issues around his certificate and all that. It's basically his PR was not that great, because he was the only thing that people know him for was his dancing, so to speak. Yes. And then nobody took him serious,
senator,
like a dancing senator.
Yeah.
So there was not really a lot of conversations around his competence or what he brings to the table. So after he lost the election in 2018, he went back to school. in the US. He got a degree, I think, in criminology, and then he came back. He re-strategized and got more people on board to support his aspiration. And of course, you could see it in the result of the election. I mean, the vote he got in Ife, for instance, Ife was APC dominated Ife, or APC should have dominated Ife this past election because of Omishore's factor. In the 2018 election, Omishore was the SDP candidate, and he won the majority of votes from the three local governments in Ife South, Ife Central, and I think Ife East. But in this past election, Adeleke was able to make an inroad into Ife, so he actually he didn't stop at his he didn't limit himself to his strong base, which is Ede North, Ede South, I think Ede Central, which is actually where he comes from. He was able to get maximum votes from those, and then he was able to spread his popularity across the state, even in local government that are traditionally APC. For instance, Osogbo, Adeleke won in Osogbo. That's unprecedented. APC has always won in Osogbo, and they always win
The
with
state capital.
they've always been winning with
Yes, of
yeah
course.
with wide margin. And the same thing for Olorunda local government as well. So in local governments where Oyetola even won this election, if you look at the margin, you would realize that the margin were not that wide. But wherever Adeleke won, the margin was so wide. So I mean, so that if you want to, the one we can take away from that is that it's been able to spread its popularity across the states, and you can't argue against the fact that it's generally accepted by the people of Osun State.
A lot of people are of the opinion that his relationship with Davido turned the tide in his favor. Yeah, do you agree with that?
To an extent, I will agree with that. But that is not the main reason why he's popular in the state. Their father used to be a senator, and he was also Awolowo's ally. Then, so he used to have a brother too, Isaac Adeleke, who was also a senator. So you can see that they have this dynasty, they have this political history already in Osun. So he is the third person in their family contesting for election. Don't also forget that his former brother, the one that died in 2017, Isaac Adeleke, was also a governor of the state. In fact, he was the first democratically elected governor in Osun State.
In Osun State, yeah.
So they have this
History.
the history.
Yes,
They are already
political
grounded in
history.
Osun State
Yeah.
already. So Adeleke now coming to contest again. Don't forget that in 2018 he was there to contest, and then he lost by just 482 votes. That shows how close it was, right? Then again, so this last election on July 16, what I see from my perspective is that it was more of a protest vote, because a lot of people in the 2018 felt like Adeleke was cheated, because like he said, he was winning until they declared it inconclusive, and then there was a rerun and he lost with just 482 votes. So many people probably feel like, oh, you cheated him, okay, we are coming again. So that played a role. Then the influence of what's his name, Davido also contributed to a lot, because it was there for him in 2018, and again he was there campaigning, gingering, and so I think everything. I think everything, the family, and there's something everybody talk about their family, that they love each other. People have been talking about that a lot.
Unity,
so there's a unity in the family. So they work for each other, and I think it's just the high time for Adeleke to emerge, because the sign has always been there.
All right, so I want to ask a question now, because last week we talked about Jandor and of course Funke Akindele.
Okay.
Now, having someone popular on his team, that's Jandor now, do you think that Funke Akindele would help him win and become governor of Lagos State? Why? It's not just
so it's a
smiling,
different
laughing.
case with Funke Akindele.
Okay.
You know why? Because
Why?
the Adeleke situation is quite different.
Okay.
So like he rightly said, like Bayo rightly said, Adeleke came from a family that has a political history, that are well enshrined in the politics of Osun State. So Adeleke until 2018 was a senator, right? He was in the APC at some point. His late brother was actually in the APC until his death. And then Adeleke left the APC because the APC would not give him the senatorial ticket after his brother died. So you would realize that they have a political structure, the family on their own. And then the PDP in Osun State, they also have a strong presence in the state. They have a spread, unlike in Lagos. For instance, in Osun State, the three senatorial districts is shared between the APC and the PDP. APC has 2 senators in Osun State. PDP has 1 senator. And they also have a number of House of Rep members. So if you look at all these factors and if you are someone that has been following the history of election or how people vote, you realize that having a senator or having a House of Reps, member in your party can actually go a long way in influencing where the people will vote. But in Lagos, PDP does not have that same kind of luxury. I can't remember. I mean, they are not holding any senatorial districts. I don't know if they have. I'm not sure if they have any House of Reps member. I think they had one in 2011 or 2016. But currently, APC, has the absolute control in the state. So Funke Akindele's factor alone will not be enough, considering the fact that she is not coming from a rich
Political background.
a family that has a political background. So that would also
She
count
herself
against it.
on her own has no political history.
Yes.
Yeah, so
exactly.
that would count.
Yeah.
That would count against her, right? And of course, the fact that she's a neophyte in politics. So in politics, you need to build connections. You need to build what do they call it? You need to build
It's a lot more than being popular.
yeah, the word is not coming
than
now,
having
but it's
numbers,
just
yes.
it's not enough to be out there to be in the public to have 20 million followers. It's great, but then again, you have to consider the fact that all your 20 million followers are not Lagos residents. Some of your 20 million followers are actually APC member. The ones that are not APC member, they have sympathy for APC. So what about the ones that are not in Nigeria? So all these factors will come into play. If you put the video on a ballot in Osun State, it may not win. You understand?
Sure.
Because you can't rely on your fans alone. The celebrity, status will play a role. And I think what that actually did for Oyetola was that he actually put a spotlight on his candidacy, and of course on the whole electoral process. Because on the election day, Davido was out there tweeting, they are cheating us in there, they are not. So it makes it difficult for the opposition to play funny if they are going to. So his brother, his uncle already has that popularity. He's on brand, right? But Davido was doing his thing on Twitter and beaming the spotlight on everything that was going on. So it made it difficult for whoever that wants to come up with any funny gameplay to perpetrate that. So I think those are the kind of things celebrity involvement in elections can actually do. But in terms of swaying people's opinion on where to vote, I don't think that would be significant enough to decide an election.
All right. So you mentioned something earlier, and I have a follow-up question for Bayo. So do you think that Adeleke's win could mean that PDP might have a comeback to being the most preferred party in Nigeria?
Yeah, okay.
You want to answer? I can see you like.
I don't want to.
So you're actually confusing us, like, because you asked me a question and you're facing me.
Yeah, because I asked you, but then I looked at him and he was.
No, I was just
he was
trying
gonna
to-
go. I wanted to just say to him that just calm down, relax.
All right.
Relax.
Okay. Yeah. So PDP won the election in
In
Osun
Osun
State.
State,
Fine.
yes.
It was a good performance for them.
Oh yes. it
Right.
was.
But nationwide, nationally, PDP is not the national party. I mean, it's not the
Ruling
party
party.
in power.
Ruling party. Yeah.
APC is there. But could that change the fortune of PDP?
Yes.
Across the
that's
country.
what I'm asking.
First, voting pattern is very different. I mean, you can't use Osun election to judge what's going to happen in 2023. Right? We've actually highlighted the reasons why the people of Osun State voted for Adeleke.
Yeah.
And that's not the same reason across the country, right? Another thing is voting pattern in Osun changes. AD has ruled that state, APC has ruled the state, PDP has ruled the state. And this is not the first time PDP will be winning the state. PDP had rolled in 2003 to 2010 before Allstars came in with APC. I think it was even ACN first.
Yeah, ACN actually.
Before APC.
APC.
So voting pattern in that state changes.
Yeah.
So you can't use that to judge what's going to happen in 2023. Already some people have actually argued that election is going to be a precursor to 2023. But I don't want to agree with that because politicians know how to play their games. But the general belief is that the election is going to be largely between the APC and the PDP. But who is going to emerge the winner? I don't know yet.
Okay, I was going to ask a follow-up question because of how Nigerians are reacting to a certain party, but let's move on. So
Then we can talk about it.
Okay,
Labour
no,
Party.
let's not
The
talk about
obedient.
it. Yes, the obedient. Yes, okay. Because he said it was between APC and PDP, but that's not a discussion for today. Maybe
Yeah,
some
sure.
other episode. Yeah.
all
So
right,
what do you
so,
think? Is PDP making a comeback with
Definitely,
Adeleke's win?
definitely, they're making a comeback. So, thing with the Osun State election, I think another factor that we've not mentioned here is is the rotational policy that the people of Osun West believe should have been implemented in 2018. So leading up to the 2018 election, Aregbesola actually wanted a different candidate for the APC, Moshood Adeoti, who also is from Ede. Ede is located in Osun West. So Osun Central, another senatorial district, have had their share of being the governor, and the third senatorial district has also had their share. So the people of Osun West actually felt that it was their turn, and that was why Aregbesola wanted Moshood Adeoti in 2018. But then again, he went back to Osogbo, which is, I think, is Osun Central. So in this particular election, if you look at the margin of victory, the margin of the difference in the vote from Osun West, you would realize that they were actually determined to get it this time around. So that is also another factor that worked in PDP's favor. So let's bring it to the national level now. So how does that influence the 2023 election? One thing about election results, victory or losses, is the fact that it gives the political party momentum. So in Ekiti, when the APC won in Ekiti, they were so happy, they were so eager, because the margin of victory in Ekiti was overwhelming. It wasn't even close at all. I think over 50,000 votes or thereabouts. Yeah. So people were saying, oh, the Tinubu, and that was 2 weeks or so after Tinubu won his presidential ticket. So people were already attributing that, performance to Tinubu's emergence as the party flag bearer. So we all thought they were going to take that momentum into Osun State as well. And then the fact that Tinubu, they said he had some roots back to Irabiji in Osun State, is neither here nor there. But then again, his influence cut across the Southwest,
sure.
the whole of the Southwest. So people actually thought that APC would ride on that wave of Ekiti and just, go ahead and win the election. But here we are talking about a PDP victory, and not just a victory, an overwhelming victory. And PDP are going to milk this particular one, because they are already talking about the fact that this has shown that APC is no longer popular among the people, and it's very difficult to argue against that if you look at the margin of victory. So PDP are going to categorize on this. They are going to build their campaign around this, and they are going to make sure that they give APC a run for their money, especially in the Southwest, because by the time the 2023 election would come around, APC would have 4 states. They are controlling the Southwest, while PDP will have 2 states. So
Oyo and Osun State.
It is expected, but Oyo State and Osun State. So the expectation is that Southwest is supposed to be Tinubu's stronghold, because it's from the Southwest. But the way it's shaping up now, it might actually be a battleground, which is going to count against the APC. Because in elections, what actually wins you the election at times is not the number of votes you get, but it's the margin of victory. So in a local government where you have 100,000 voters and you are able to get 80,000 votes, and your opponent gets 20,000 votes, that's a margin of 60,000. Yes. But if you have 500,000 votes in a particular local government and you are able to get 400,000 votes, and your previous driver is able to pull over 80,000 votes, the margin of victory may not be as much as the one. So PDP, they know that it's very difficult to win the Southwest, but they might want to turn it into a battleground, which might count against Tinubu's chances in 2018. But it's still, everything is still out there.
But when I said vote pattern in Southwest changes, the fact that the PDP won in Osun might not necessarily mean the PDP they win again.
Yeah.
When it comes to presidential election, because the reason is this: if you remember in let's start from 1999, right? For presidency, the Southwest people voted for PDP, and at state level, they voted for AD. For AD, 1999.
No?
1999.
AD, 1999.
No, the Southwest didn't vote for the PDP.
I said voted for AD at state level.
Even at the federal level, they voted for Olufalaye. So that was
that's true.
That's why people believe that it was
2003
that brought Obasanjo to power.
Oh, so that's true.
I think you were trying to refer to 2003
when
Obasanjo, was able to persuade the Southwest and say, "Oh, I'm your son. Let's
go back to federal level."
AD was an opposition party then
at the level, at state level, yes.
At the state level, because they controlled all the states in the Southwest. So they were, supposed to pretend a presidential candidate, but they actually campaigned for Obasanjo because of one of our own factor. So what you had back then was Jemsoke Kutu Jemsako, because AD was actually first on the ballot, considering the
You have to
alphabetical order.
translate that.
So you vote for AD in the local elections, but in the general elections you vote for the PDP. So so which actually counted against the AD at the end of the day, because they lost 5 states in the southwest.
5 for all the states.
No. They retained them. Lagos.
Oh, they retained Lagos. Yeah, that's
was the only
retained
man
Lagos. Because of
standing
Tinubu,
then.
yeah.
So, like you said, the southwest has always, been voted as a bloc. They've always voted as a bloc, right? In 2011, when Jonathan came on board, there was supposed to be an alliance between Tinubu and CPC Buhari, but they couldn't agree on some issues. And then at the end of the day, we heard that Tinubu actually later struck a deal with Jonathan, and that was why the whole of the Southwest voted for Jonathan, except Osun State.
Yeah, this particular Osun.
Except Osun State, and I guess they did that because they knew there would be an election in 2014, so they didn't want the PDP to have a sense of victory ahead of the 2014 governorship election. So everything was still boils down to politics. But then the Southwest voted as a bloc. Same thing repeated itself in 2015. Same thing repeated itself in 2019. So what I'm saying is, the Southwest has never been a battleground. Battlegrounds has always been the North Central, right? But with the current trend of things, if PDP has 2 states in their fold, and then APC is struggling with four states, you can't say, and then you look at the margin of victory in Osun State, you can't confidently say APC are going to dominate all the votes in the Southwest. So it would be sensible for the PDP to convert, even if they can't convert it to their state, they can convert it to a battleground.
All right, guys. So we could go on and on because this is starting to look like a debate. I'm tempted to ask the producer to bring both of you back, so we'll run this through. Like, let's know Nuru versus Bayo. But then again, so because we have to go, time is not on our side at the moment. Okay. I'd like you to quickly summarize what this win, Adeleke's win, would mean for the 2023 elections.
Oh.
Briefly.
I hope I can be brief with this. Thing with the 2023 election is, so there's some emerging trend in the voting pattern now. Some people have said that, it's Adeleke's personality that won it for PDP in Osun State. Some people have said, it's Adeleke's personality plus the party. So if it depends on what side of the argument you belong to. So if you believe that popularity is going to play a role, then you might also want to look at someone like Peter Obi. You can't rule him out because he's gathering followers by the day. A lot of obedient people. But then again, he has not really been able to make an inroad into the northern part of Nigeria. So that's still going to count against him. So if you are, narrowing it down to popularity of the candidate, you can say Obi seems to be like the most popular candidate right now. But then again, if you are someone that believe in the party structure and all of that, you can say it is between the APC and the PDP. But whichever way it turns out to be, I think Obi being on the ballot in 2023 is going to hurt the PDP chances greatly, because most of the obedience now are people who have actually been voting for the PDP before, right? And they are not going to vote for the PDP this time around. So that's going to count against the PDP. So I think that's what the APC is actually banking on. And that's why you can see that they are also engaging obedience, because I feel like they want to build more followers around him and just take the attention away from Atiku, which is actually a smart thing to do, because Obi is going to, Obi's vote is going to hurt Atiku badly. So if you factor in all these things, you can say APC still has the upper hand, but 7 months to a major election is still a very long way. A lot of alliance, a lot of coalition. Don't be surprised if Obi eventually pulls out of the race and
go back to PDP.
And go back. No, maybe not necessarily go back to DP. It's possible.
But anything can happen.
But
it's politics.
From where we are right now, I think APC is still leading, but PDP will give them a fight for the money, while Obi will out.
But you can't be too sure that APC is leading. So.
We've said that anything can happen. So fingers crossed. This has been a very amazing, interesting episode of Paul's Hot Takes. If you agree with anything or disagree with anything that we've said on the show, do let us know in the comment section below. My name is Rachel Isaac, and this has been Paul's Hot Takes, and I've been hanging out with Bayo and Nuru. See you guys next time.